All right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of The Scoop Around the Loop, your local Des Moines podcast hosted by the Springer Brothers Real Estate Team. We are the full team minus two, so not even really close to the full team. We got myself, Thomas here. We got Andrew and Tyler. Guys, how's your week going?
All right.
So far, so good. We were at a funeral yesterday, so that wasn't chill. But on the completely different accord, Thomas got a new dog, and that is enough light for everyone.
Patty.
Hi, Patty. Did you were you impressed that I knew where the name came from?
Yeah. It's been like 20% that know, because the fosters that adopted him, he's obviously a very black dog. That's a lot of light, Andrew.
Jeez, oh, Pizzo. I don't know. There we go.
That adopted him named Sirius, aka Sirius Black,
from Harry Potter. For those who don't know,
yeah. So which is, in my opinion, not a great dog name, because dog names should have like a hard consonant to them. So they could hear it really easily. So I renamed him Padfoot, aka Patty, aka Patty the Batty. So that's where we're at. So
what's another example?
What's up?
Is that a boy dog? Is that a boy name?
Yeah, okay. Padfoot, Patty. He's a boy. First boy dog I've ever had. And actually, yeah, even our
Padfoot's nickname, or Sirius Black's nickname, is Padfoot.
Yeah.
And Harry Potter.
Yeah, because Sirius Black was an animagus that could turn into a large black dog.
I actually thought it was a rapper.
A rapper? If I were to name
a fighter,
if I was to name him after a rapper, I'd probably name him Waka Flocka Flame, which would be a really long name.
Maybe this is stereotyping, but I thought you were going to say Mac Miller or something like that, or Marshall, for Marshall Mathers.
A little bit of stereotyping, but that's fine.
Yep, that's all right.
All right, you guys ready to dive into this? I think Tyler is going to have some good opinions to start out with this one. This was a Reddit post that I found the other day. The person is moving to Des Moines, and they're specifically looking to buy in a historic neighborhood that is very well manicured and very walkable. What comes to mind when you guys hear that? And they said decorated for holidays and stuff.
Well, considering all aspects of this question, I do have some opinions. I love Beaverdale. I'm partial to it. I mean, a lot of people in Des Moines love Beaverdale. That's nothing new. Knowing from experience, just walking on those old blocks with those old historic homes, big mature trees. You know, there's certain streets that the trees kind of put a canopy over the streets. A lot of the streets don't have sidewalks in them, which is, problematic for walking, but the streets aren't all that busy if you're going in and out of the neighborhood. But obviously there's a downtown area. There's like 7 or 8 restaurants in that downtown area, a few bars, bookstore.
The key point to point out too, that they actually have stuff to walk to. Yeah. Because the other one that I thought of was like the South of Grand neighborhood. But other than really pretty houses, there's not a whole lot to actually like walk to. I mean, there's a lot of parks over there, I guess, but
yeah. And Beaverdale's kind of split up in 2 halves, I guess, in that downtown on Beaver Avenue is right in the middle of the 2, and Urbandale Avenue is just a street that runs. It kind of forms a T right in the middle of Beaverdale. So it's, easy to walk to. When we used to live over there, we'd walk to dinner, have some drinks and walk back, or we'd walk out to brunch. Snooki's isn't far away. A lot of people like walking to Snooki. Shout out to Brett Smith. I met him and was telling him about how I used to walk to the Beaver Tap just like 2 weeks ago, because he was just asking about the area. He wasn't familiar, so I gave him the same rundown I just gave everyone on this show. So yeah, that's my pick. On top of that, during the holidays on Ashby Avenue, they have pretty much every house on the street is lit up. Very, very busy during the holidays.
That's a neighborhood initiative too, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's one of those. I bet you could base like a semi-fictional movie off of that neighborhood. I bet there's a couple people in there that take it very, very seriously and look down at like the 2 or 3 people that don't really participate. I mean, you don't have to, but
I might be totally wrong on this, but it was my understanding that if you as an owner don't want to put up lights, they have like companies that'll come out there for you, like at a pretty low fee to put up like just basic lights.
That wouldn't surprise me. They have some pretty cool displays.
I sold a house once down a little further down. It wasn't quite on Santa Claus Lane. It kind of kept going where you normally would turn or make the loop. And that was a big deal when the buyers bought it. Like the sellers made sure, and the neighbor made sure everybody knew that
we put lights up in this neighborhood.
That nosy neighbor was coming over during showings, and you're gonna participate, right?
Yeah,
that's like with the movie. Like
that's probably why they backed out of
Christmas with the Cranks or whatever it is, where he doesn't
they decide not to celebrate.
Want to go on a cruise, and everyone makes a huge deal about it.
Is there any other neighborhoods that come to mind, Andrew?
When I think of Beaverdale, though, I think of like when you're walking, all the yards are above the sidewalks. And so I always afraid I'm going to twist my ankle. That's how I think. So I like new construction neighborhoods where all the grass is at or below the sidewalk. And so, I don't know, sidewalks are wider.
But like an old man.
Well, when you twist your ankle.
That was the oldest man comment I've ever heard.
I think about that stuff. My yard's like that. I want to. I've thought about having it graded so I can just resod it. That's the most bougie thing I think I probably want to do with my yard. But no, like even our like neighborhood growing up, like Stonebridge Road, I think is a really clean. I mean, it's clean. It's a lot of people walking up and down it. It's adjacent or parallel to the green belt or the bike trail that runs behind there. So you just have a lot of people walking. I like seeing people out when I'm walking. I
think the green belt is a really good, if you can, I mean, you don't get like the holiday thing, but if I could live close to that trail, that would be really fun because that whole section of trail there up in Clive is really, really cool.
Well, yeah, I'm talking specifically in the West Des Moines, but also the stretch of trail from 86th Street to 100th Street, that green belt, that's sponsored by the Springer Brothers real estate team. We adopt that stretch of trail just to, we got to clean it probably soon, but assuming people litter, I would like to think that people in my neighborhood don't litter, but
well, we've proven that to not be the case because I've pulled like whole bikes out of the weed. Kind of back to some other neighborhoods I have in mind, especially that kind of pertain to the well-manicured historic neighborhood part of it. I've been really liking Highland Park's kind of redevelopment. That is definitely something. 6th Avenue, north of Euclid, has a whole bunch of stuff going on. They've always had like Highland Bakery, but now they have Slow Down Coffee Co. They have Chuck's, they have Lachelle's and the Fitz, which I just went to the Fitz a couple of days ago for lunch with a buddy. And that place was awesome. One side is Lachelle's, which is originally on Ingersoll Avenue. They do the smash burgers, really, really good. And that side is kind of like a 50s, 60s diners vibes with like pink and white tile and stuff like that. The other side is like a moody bar. While we were in there, they were playing like Mac Miller and just different songs like that. And same exact menu as Lachelle's, just a completely different ambiance and vibe. And pretty much every building on 6th Avenue in between Euclid and what would it be, Madison? Every commercial building, there's a Remax Precision office on that street that's really, really cool. Is getting rehabbed and redeveloped. So there's a lot of money going into there. And I think in terms of home prices, you'll see a noticeable difference. I think if you were to look at a $250,000 home, what that gets you in Highland Park versus what it gets you in Beaverdale, close to Beaver Avenue and Urbandale Avenue, there's a noticeable difference. And I think Highland Park is one of those neighborhoods that over the next 10 years or so, there's going to be a lot of money pumped into it from different government initiatives like Invest DSM and stuff like that. That is going to make that place really, really, really cool again, which it is pretty cool now. They have, what else do they have there? They have a bookstore. They have a couple of different, just like little boutique type of stores. They have a hardware store, Chuck's. Yeah, a lot going on over there. Lynn's Supermarket, which has a haunted house. And around Halloween time, so kind of playing to the holidays. That's kind of a big thing on that side of town. And then, Sherman Hill, there's a lot of stuff going on over there with Big Grove and Smoky Row and Lua.
There's some cool houses over there too.
I want to talk about historic. That's about as truly historic, because it's literally a designated historic district. Where people can't do whatever they want to the front of their homes, and they have to keep it looking the way it looks.
Sherman Hill does like a yearly house tour too, don't they?
Yeah.
Where you can tour some of those historic houses.
And it seems like it's either, from an unbiased perspective, it seems like it's either huge multi-family buildings that maybe need a little bit of love, or pretty big Victorian style homes that are obviously well taken care of and that have some large amount of restoration work done to them over the years. I mean, the average price in that neighborhood for a move-in ready home, I mean, $550,000, I'd probably say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for that specific neighborhood. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, a lot of cool properties in there. That's my jam. I love the historic neighborhoods of Des Moines. There's a lot of cool stuff. I think being kind of in the middle of the country, obviously the East Coast has homes built in the 1700s and stuff like that. But, those homes back then, they weren't built, in this ornate fashion that, the oldest homes in Des Moines were built, in the late 1800s. That's really
Sherman Hill is the closest I could think of to if you guys been to Chicago and went through some of their older districts in Chicago, it kind of reminds me of that type of vibe.
Yeah, it's cool.
So next up, I pulled up what I think are some interesting stats, and hopefully we can read this pretty easily. I was just curious, so I pulled up basically what's happened to DMAR resale homes that have gotten listed in the first 3 months of this year, just to give people kind of an idea of what is happening to them. So I'll kind of read this out. Of everything that got listed in the first 3 months for resale DMAR, 32% of them basically sold below list. 18% or so are currently under contract but haven't closed yet. 16.2 are still listed and still active. Just under 4% of them got withdrawn or canceled completely. And then 29.6 sold either at or above list price. Is that kind of what you guys would expect?
I honestly would kind of expect that active number to be a little bit higher, just given new construction. I bet a huge.
This is just resale. It's not new construction.
Okay. Oh, I missed that part. You did say that. And just so everyone knows, DMAR is Des Moines Area Association of Realtors. So this is, Ankeny.
Basically,
and
Newton. I always tell people basically like a 45-minute drive from Des Moines.
Yeah.
The amount sold above list price is interesting, or at or above. I think it's kind of interesting given.
And I'll tell you, a majority of them are at list price. But there was a decent percentage above. The other interesting thing I pulled up too, because I was kind of curious about the ones that sold above list price and how many days they were on market. This is a distribution graph of how many days those homes were on market. You can see here that two of them, and I took out some outliers because for some reason there was one that was on market for 79 days, but still managed to sell above list price. So I figured that was an extremely unique home, and I kind of just took it out of the stats because it didn't really make sense.
Sold at, so is this sold at or above original list price?
Yes, this would be above original list price. And this is just the distribution of ones that sold above. So I thought this would be interesting for us because this could kind of be a guide for us to start talking to people about when to decrease the price of their home, because the median was at 2. A majority of homes that sold above list price sold within 2 days.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, I bet if you broke down those two, it's really probably like one. It just took another day to get it pulled from the market or from the MLS.
Yeah. But the longest it took for someone to sell above list price was 12 days.
Yeah, I mean, you can see where the wave really starts to plateau, day 6, 7, somewhere in there.
And again, knowing from like personal experience, wouldn't you say technically this is all a day behind? So
No, I mean, it gets recorded as the date of the purchase agreement.
But it gets recorded as the day that everything is officially signed, doesn't it?
Yeah, but to what Tyler's saying is if it gets submitted on Wednesday,
that's not the day it's sold. The day it's sold is when everything is completely signed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so
it could come off the market on a Friday, but the date of that the status change could be a Monday. It does reflect that. But yeah, I think right at about a week is where you really start to see that plateau. And I think that's, a week you've probably had everybody that wanted to see it. You might still have people come on that, just got approved, just started thinking about buying yesterday, and now they're approved and, they see this house. But I mean, it's interesting because 7 days, even 30 days used to be kind of don't touch the price if you're within 30 days. But then during COVID, it was like if it didn't sell in 4 hours, you thought you priced it too high.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of spoiled it a little bit. But 7 days is still not very long. That's not even a full work week cycle.
When I always tell people, and this is kind of in line with what I've been telling people, until median days on market goes up, I always like to see it go through 2 weekends and kind of see where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So, because like truth be told, with the way most people's schedules are, you would agree that a majority of our showings happen like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. And I do wonder.
Summertime, it seems to pick up during the week, but yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, like if we were to look at this graph we see compared to the ones that are still on the market and active, like if there's like some definite reasons as why so, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like we've listed houses that were like, this will take a little while, then we get above list price. We're like, okay. And then there's others that everything seems perfect about the house and it takes a while. So it's not always cut and dry like that. But I would be curious, like if homes at a certain price only have 3 bathrooms versus 4, if those are sitting longer, updated kitchen versus not, or fenced yard or whatever it is. Like I do wonder if there's like it'd be interesting to see like what's still
if there's a key factor that gets stuff sold faster than others.
Yep.
I'm writing down a note right there to see if I can somehow come up with numbers for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd especially considering it is resell, that pie graph.
I wonder if there's a particular area that stuff is still active in too.
I mean, I bet that most of it's probably Des Moines, I'd assume.
It's also where a majority of the listings still come from too, is Des Moines. So that would probably be
most of those homes that sold below list, I bet require a good. I'd be curious to know like the price per square foot of that.
Of the ones that sold below list.
Yeah, below list, because again, everyone wants a deal, and it's if you want a deal and you can afford what comes on the back end of a deal most often in the real estate market in Des Moines, that's great. But yeah, I'd be curious to know. I think that'd be a good metric to know.
I did kind of peek at
in each one of those sold at or above list and sold below list.
And I wonder too, this would probably take more work for me to do, but going back in and just specifically tagging the ones that say they want to sell as is and seeing what happened to those. One of the things I did notice with this too, kind of opposite of what you were saying, Tyler, but I think it just has to do with interest rates. A lot of the ones that sold above or below list were in that more luxury price point. Just because it's such a hard price point, and getting a loan on something like that right now would be kind of tough, even if you get a seller concession. So that did kind of stand out to me as well.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of those luxury price points too, I'd imagine a lot of money gets dumped into them post closing to make it in there.
Yeah, I think
that's interesting.
If you're a potential seller looking at this, I think the one thing that hopefully is pretty clear with this chart here is if you get to like that 2 weeks point, your chance of getting above list price is pretty much gone, unless you have an extremely unique home. And I don't know, have you guys even seen anyone doing offer deadlines lately?
Yeah, we did for our last listing.
Was it just based on the traffic you guys got right away, or was it the second you listed it, you knew that's what you guys were doing?
Get an offer, then there's another showing that says they're going to offer.
Yeah, we got an offer. There's like 6 or 7 other showings scheduled for the same day.
So. We never lead with, hey, there's going to be a deadline. We let if people want to offer, then we do that. I think you look kind of foolish when nobody offers. And you have a deadline, because then it kind of shows your hand a little bit as a list agent. That
my favorite thing is seeing it in the agent remarks still when it's been like 3 weeks since that deadline has passed.
Yep.
And it's still active.
Yep. Yeah, I think that it gives away some leverage for a seller when you've had that in there and nobody offered, because then it's like, okay, we're not really competing with anybody now.
Yeah. I hope this was the interstate construction that you were talking about.
Yes. Yep.
Basically, they're widening parts of I-35, I-80.
Thank the Lord.
And it's already closed. I totally forgot about this, even though Tyler texted me this, and I was driving down Hickman the other day, wanting to get on I-35.
I literally did it this morning. And I'm well aware. It'll take some getting used to. I went to go work out at Genesis because it's chest day. I like going to Genesis for chest day because they got all types of machines. You can get a real good pump. Anyways, then afterwards I had a haircut, which is off of like 42nd Street by way right next door to Waveland Cafe. So I went that way to get on the interstate on Hickman there, and yeah, that on-ramp is closed. So I turned around and went Hickman to Valley West Mall and then got on the interstate. I probably should have just gone all the way down Hickman. But anyway, so it'll take some getting used to. I take this portion of the interstate like 2 or 3 times a day. It's in definite needing of widening, especially during rush hour time because of the short proximities or the short distances in between these ramps. It gets really, really hectic. And then right after, just south of University, you then have
235
ramp coming onto the interstate, and then another ramp to get on to go towards Des Moines. So that portion of the interstate is very, very hectic. Hannah absolutely hates it. She gets like so much anxiety when in between Douglas and University during like rush hour before going out to
Right. I was,
for anything.
and then specifically, I'm not the best driver. Hand up, I'll admit that. This University to Hickman run northbound, that's like my least favorite part of the interstate because it's just kind of chaos of people trying to get off on the Hickman or get on from
Yeah,
University.
and then there's a Pilot truck stop on Douglas, and then there's a Love's.
On
Maybe
Hickman.
it's the other way around, but there's two big truck stops, so there's always 18-wheelers merging. And again, especially like from Hickman, and if you're trying to get off on University, and people merging south from Hickman, yeah, it gets really, really hectic, and people just like are slamming on their brakes. But I think the widening right here will really, really help with that congestion and just allow people
so
3
you're
lanes
in,
south.
you're in support of this. You're just not liking how long it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. I know it needs to be done. It's just a matter of getting used to it. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Positives. I don't think
Yeah,
there's
I think
currently any.
all you got to do, like the map says, now all I have to, if I'm trying to get on to the interstate from Hickman, I just have to go down another mile or so. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. All things considered.
Well, I think the thing that bums me out right now is that the bike trail that goes underneath the bridge there is closed. So the Greenbelt Trail, that's closed for a lot. I don't know if it's the full year. It's a long part of the project. It's closed, and that I take that. I'd take that trail a lot, like because that goes all the way to Waukee or to Dallas Center. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously a necessary thing. I was driving to Ames this morning for an inspection, and I think it's Huxley. There's a come and go on the exit, and there's no bridge there.
Yeah.
So the on ramp's closed, and I think that kind of stinks for come and go.
Yeah, I wonder how that works. Like,
there's I could see vehicles there, but it's just like, yeah, how do you? I wonder if there's some sort of like insurance that you can.
I'm also like assuming once this side is done, they're gonna do some work to the other side.
Probably.
I was reading an article that within like 15 years, they expect traffic on this portion to increase by like 45% or something like that from where it is now. So like this is kind of forward thinking. I don't know. I'm sure that's what they're supposed to do anyway.
Well, the big question is then what's the plan with Hickman? Because
they've already widened it right there.
Yeah, Hickman sucks. I hate driving on Hickman, especially.
They've made it 3 lanes though, each direction. Nick Rivas asked this question. So when I was going to Ames, I shared that I only had 43 miles left in my tank, and I had 42 miles to my destination. And so I was thinking about trying it out. But no, I don't know. I got gas. My truck holds about 600, gets about 600 miles to the tank. So I just went ahead and did that. So
this,
by the way, Nick Rivas is the editor for DSM at Dawn.
Okay.
Great newsletter, kind of giving you the rundown on everything going on in Des Moines. So if you don't listen or you don't subscribe yet, do it. DSM at Dawn.
Big Hawkeye fan.
Yeah, right.
For Christmas, I was driving out to Colorado, and we were coming up on.
Were you looking at new houses out there?
Yeah, actually. We were coming up on Kearney, and I got the low the gas was low, and in my car, once it hits 39 miles left to E, it just goes to low. So it goes 40, and then it says low on like the digital thing. And so I thought I had 40 miles, and the next stop, like the main stop in Kearney, isn't that where that museum over the interstate is? Kearney, right?
Yeah, the fire. Oh yeah. The Buffalo Cody Museum, and then like right after that's like the Nebraska Fire Association or something like that.
Yeah. So I was trying to get to the one after that museum over the interstate, and it was like 25 miles or something like that. So I thought I had plenty of time. I come up just shy of that museum, and we start. The car slows down. Luckily, I'm right by the off ramp, and I get up off on the exit ramp on the interstate and ran out of gas for trying to push it. I thought I was mathematically spot on. Tow truck had to come and give me gas. Took like an hour. Isaiah, Hannah were both hangry.
Oh, I
and
forgot about that. Yeah.
So yeah, I learned my lesson with pushing that. I'm never going to do that again, ever. I don't care. I thought I knew my car. It's one of those classic, like, no, dude, I know my car, man. I know how far it can go.
Did you have AAA?
No, I didn't have AAA. But with that said, I feel like Kearney, Nebraska is well prepared for stuff like that to happen. People just driving by their city. That's probably a big part of their economy there is roadside assistance. So they were there pretty quick.
Jesse and I, like our first year of marriage, and she was pregnant with Ryder, is how I remember it. We were driving to Mall of America for like kind of like our last like big thing before we had a kid.
Baby one.
We had just purchased it was an Oldsmobile Aurora. It was like a 2001 or something like that. It was a nice little car, but the low fuel light was on, and so we were trying to get to Ankeny. We were coming out of Des Moines, like we were just leaving town, and like it said like low, same kind of thing. Didn't say how many miles, low, and we're like, well, shoot. Then all of a sudden, it just filled up, like it went to full, and so we're like, that's kind of weird. And we still stopped at the next gas station, and I'm like, is there 2 tanks on this thing? Like, I'm trying to Google it. Like, I don't think we had a smartphone actually. Trying to research. I think I researched it later. I'm looking in the manual. I was like, is there 2 tanks in this? Like, and we just like it just accessed the second one, and nope, there was only 1 tank. I don't know what the heck, and we filled it up. But yeah, it went from like low to just all of a sudden it was back to looking like it was full. So that was an interesting experience. So
this is a post on Reddit that I found that was talking about listing descriptions and said that agents should please stop using the word nestled to describe where the house is. They can't take it anymore. And we should try tucked away or private.
Well, shoot, I don't want them to take it anymore.
For the sake of discussion, I have a lot to contribute, but this person sounds like a crybaby. What do you mean you can't take it anymore? What in the world? What's the difference between tucked away and private and nestled?
Well, I don't even nestled. Maybe it's just a her market thing. I don't even think nestled is used that much.
This must be like in the Pacific Northwest where there's like a ton of trees or something like that, and like every house or every lot has 10 trees on it. Because I like nestled personally.
Shout out cousin Adam who lives in the Pacific Northwest.
What are some that you see that you think are just way overused though?
Well, maybe Tyler was going there with this, but I hate when people say like the basement's ready to be finished. In other words, it's not finished, and it means you got a bunch of work to do.
I have an unfinished basement with plenty of potential.
Yeah. I mean, we use that stuff too, but it is one that's kind of like
and I like, again, most of the stuff what we're gonna say I've definitely used before, but like the whole sweat equity thing, like trying to convince someone in the listing description that the house doesn't need that much work. Like you can tell generally speaking, what type of house a work needs by looking at the price, looking at the photos, and looking at how big the house is. Like get a general idea that, okay, this house is in a good area of town and it's 3 bedrooms and 1,800 square feet, but it costs $200,000. Like, so like people saying just a little bit of sweat equity usually ends up being like needs a whole renovation in half the house.
Handyman special.
Yeah, handyman special, not a handyman. I have handyman and they can't handle that stuff.
Yeah, what's crazy, speaking of that, like
contractor special, construction.
One of our go-to, like, he's my best friend, but like, so he's one of our go-to like kind of fix all type guys, handyman, plumber, all that stuff. the house they bought, it was one of my first transactions I ever did as an agent, but the listing description says like new. It was built in the 90s, I think. They put the seller put like a laminate down over carpet or over like other hard surface, like they didn't even tear it up. That was the only thing new. It was such bad shape that we had to, like, I helped them. We were taking siding off the house and replacing siding boards so it would pass FHA appraisal. Like there was nothing new
Buyer
about
was doing it.
And like to this day, the old description says like new. And when he tells me something's wrong with this house, I go, but that house is like new. Like how does it have those issues? So I just showed a house the other day to someone where like says it's finished, and then the agent remarks it says some carpet had to be removed because of a cat, destroying it. And we go in and literally the entire stairs carpet's gone, and half the basement carpet's torn out. And we're like, so just some carpet, or like the whole part of the basement that made it finished? And so it was very like maddening from the buyer's perspective to have to see that and deal with that.
Yeah, or like along those same lines, this is probably, I think you guys could probably attest to this too. The thing that gets thrown around the most with saying it's new is a roof. Like people will say a new roof and they replaced it in 2016. Like it's not an old roof, but it's certainly not a new roof. It happens to me too. Like when I hear something like 2019, I'm like, oh, that was last year. Nope, that was 6 years ago.
I had one in the listing description. I showed this house in West Des Moines. Listing description, they wrote in the description, 30-year shingle was installed. The roof was 27 years old.
That's funny.
So it wasn't.
Which technically they say 30-year shingles are good for 25. So technically, then it's passed.
So it wasn't currently an incorrect statement, but the fact that they wrote the listing description that a 30-year shingle was installed and it was 27 years old is just very funny to me. I always think someone put in the listing description that it's cute or quaint always makes me chuckle, because 100% of the times that just means it's small.
It's small. It's
yeah, smaller in Beaverdale, and has beat up hardwood floors that look like this rolling chair rolled across them all day.
Character.
Yeah, and like again, the thing with like charm and character, in a house that really has charm and character, like that means a lot. And I can't really, I'm sure there's other ways to describe it. I don't really know what other way to describe it. But when you have a very basic home in an older neighborhood and there's not a lot to describe the house with, yeah, charm and character are just kind of the throw-in words that kind of make the listing description look a little bit longer, or your Instagram look a little longer.
Well, like
I'll hit on my Instagram post, I'll say charm and character and then do the 3-star emoji next to it. Like that seems to really set it off.
Have you guys ever said this one won't last in a listing description?
And then it lasts.
Yeah, and then go back and delete it. Yeah, I've done it before. But the good thing is just go on .loop, get in the listing data input sheet, and just delete those four words, because I've definitely done that before.
But I've always thought it'd be fun to do have a show, like a sitcom about being a real estate agent, where like you just can do these things that you just would love to try, like calling a bomb threat to a property you have listed, and everyone shows up, including the news, and then as the agent you run in to the, I meant to say this house is the bomb, not that it, and but while you're looking at it, it's got 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms or whatever. But also then say you have a character that says he's just super honest about everything, type of guy that can't read the room in any social situation. And he's you walk in and the carpet probably needs replaced because, Jimmy had a cat, peed everywhere. And then, when you sleep at night, don't be bothered by the door slamming. That's just an old woman that died here. Be super honest about it. I wonder like if people would appreciate the super honesty, or if they'd be like, no. I think there's some people that would be like, hey, whatever, if they're telling the truth, I'll buy it.
Yeah, one thing that I've always wanted to try in real estate marketing is do what divorce attorneys do, and like literally just put up billboards talking about getting divorced, call us. Like getting divorced and you need to sell your house, call me. I'm not weird and I play both sides really well.
Well,
you look so shady doing that, but what's the difference? I don't know.
But like, or sending like divorce attorney correspondence to people's houses and like make them think like, are you, and then you just, again, this is for my sitcom. You just drive a huge wedge in their marriage, they get divorced, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm here,
Or you hire someone to like go.
That's 3 transactions too. So
yeah, you go hire someone to go set off some rounds, some gunfire in someone's neighborhood, make a move. They feel like their neighborhood's dangerous.
These aren't things we do, guys. We're just saying if
I'll go do that, and then 2 days later or so we hit them with a postcard that says like a ring or a security system discount with a new move promotion, like how we've been doing those local promotions.
Yeah.
Is there anything else listing wise that you get kind of roll your eyes when you see them in listing descriptions?
I mean, those are the big ones.
I kind of
is always
the couple more. The fresh paint. Like if someone mentions fresh paint in the listing description, that usually means the rest of the house is not fresh. And then when
covering up a smell.
Yeah.
Or
and then
like Andrew kind of said, the people that say newly remodeled when all they did was put in a little bit of new flooring and new paint.
Yeah, and it's just like obvious from photos. Like just be direct and say new flooring. And like that will go much further. But not a listing description, but a way to market or advertise your house. Agents will tell you all the time to like just bring me an offer. Yeah. And like again, I've done that before too. And in certain situations, it's like truly like they might take it, just like bring me an offer. But I found that more often than not, you bring them an offer. And especially after you make it clear like they want it, but they're not willing to pay what you guys are asking for it. They say bring you an offer, so you bring them an offer, and sure enough, they don't want to take the offer.
I had one a while ago that the agent said kind of something similar to what you were talking about. And like, he's like, we're not comfortable writing in an offer because it's so low. And I was like, can you just text me the number that they were thinking about? And he's like, oh, they won't even want me to text it to you. And I'm like, we could potentially make a deal. Why? Like,
they want it so bad that they won't pay any price.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, you want to talk about what we want to do next week?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, all of us worked at Shields, all sports, and the men's and women's shoe department. That's one thing I'd like to preface before I say this. So we know a lot about shoes. At Shields, you don't just like go back and grab shoes, which you do, I guess. But we were taught a lot about shoes, and were encouraged to learn a lot about shoes and foot issues and stuff like that. So between the three of us, I would say we have a very odd amount of shoe and foot knowledge for people that no longer have anything to do with shoes other than we buy them. And I think our knowledge can be pretty valuable to listeners out there and viewers out there, especially those people looking to maybe get in some shape, take up running, because running shoes are a big, wide spectrum, or it can be a big, wide spectrum of, options out there for people, and finding the perfect running shoe is pretty important. And I think our knowledge collectively, especially, can really help guide people to the right running shoe. Or we can get into talking about hiking shoes, different socks, different insoles.
I think next week we just do running.
Yeah,
kind of get
more or less. I think starting next week, we're going to start working in little tidbits about shoes and short and footwear.
I might go into my what I like to call my freebie section of my closet and pull out some shoes that I was given. Because I should have a pretty wide display of different types of running shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, just the stuff like you don't really wear.
Yeah, and then we could go through. I should have the 3 main types of shoes to kind of show people.
Like there's just different bits of knowledge that we know about shoes. Like a couple weeks ago, I blew someone's mind when I told them about Ultras.
Oh yeah,
like it showed them
Ultras. My mom still wears them.
Yeah, I don't know if they bought any, but they were describing what they wish a shoe was, and I was like, you mean like an Ultra? Which, for those who don't know, is a flat 0-drop running shoe with like a wide toe box, and it's supposed to be like a natural, like you don't have a shoe on type of feel.
Speaking of, isn't it kind of funny? Well, I guess, when did you guys start at Shield selling shoes?
2017. Okay.
2012.
13, 14 would have been like what I consider the peak for like that minimalist style that was supposed to be like barefoot running. Isn't it funny now that when you go into the shoe shop, it's like the absolute complete opposite now?
Yeah, massive cushion.
Massive, like carbon fiber plates in the midsole and stuff that like turn you into a rocket ship.
Which the
most unnatural thing you can do is put cushion, carbon fiber, cushion.
You're basically wearing a boot. But the only thing the Hokas have that's similar is the Hoka. The drop is still like 4 millimeters. There's not much of a drop to them, but other than that, it's like the complete opposite of an ultra running.
Yeah, I mean, I think that results from like a couple different things. Like people, this is kind of a good segue into the next episode.
Well, I think what started it was that guy that broke the marathon record with the
right. That's what I'm saying. People see like these elite superhuman athletes do these crazy things in these elite shoes, and they're like, yes, I'll just buy those shoes.
But people are buying those carbon fiber shoes, which are supposed to be race day shoes, and they're training in them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think all the cushion and stuff, as bad as it sounds, maybe it's a good thing. It makes things a little bit easier.
Well,
especially starting out, like nothing feels better than just having some super cushion shoes. If your knees hurt, even though it might not be the best thing long term, but maybe we'll get into that eventually in this podcast.
I mean, I remember specifically when I worked in there, someone was asking about Hokas, and I remember trying to explain to them like, yes, Hokas can help you cross the finish line, like just like a wheelchair can, but or like crutches, like you can get around, but it really doesn't allow your muscles to fully activate. And so yes, it's like comfortable to run, but it doesn't allow your muscles to get stronger. And so like I literally pointed out, like I told, there was like someone wearing like a minimalist Nike Free like 2.0, 3.0 or whatever they were, in a Hoka, and I go, just look at the difference in their calves. And the one in the minimalist shoe had really defined legs, and the one in the Hoka had just a one leg. There was you couldn't tell where the muscle was, or anything like that. And I think ultimately that's the difference. When I was running all the time, I'd run in like a Triumph, a Saucony Triumph, to do longer distances. But when I would run in like a Asics or I forget the shoe specifically, but it had almost no heel to it at all.
It was a speed trainer, more of a speed trainer.
You get more on your toes than relying on your heel, and so you definitely were engaging more muscles by having less distance between your foot and the ground.
We're just basically already getting into it, but I think I can wrap it up by saying
this kind of what really get into
kind of what Andrew is talking about. In an ideal world, if someone is training to do long distances, like I am right now, for example, running a marathon in October, no big deal.
Run an ultra marathon, sissy.
You would want a speed trainer. You would want a traditional shoe for training, and then you want your race day shoe.
And you might get another, like a replacement shoe, maybe even in
Yeah,
between.
and then
You know what I mean? Like after a while.
that traditional running shoe, more than likely, you probably want to have 2 pairs of those. So then when you're doing your long distance run, you're wearing that traditional shoe. If you're doing something shorter where you're doing speed work, you want to wear that speed trainer. And then race day, you're going to show up. It's not going to be the first time you wore those race day shoes, but that's basically all you're ever going to be wearing those for. And
Yeah, and on to your point, I remember working there, and people get so frustrated that like these shoes didn't last as long, but like they are so comfortable that like that's just one of those things where they haven't figured out how to give you the best of both worlds yet. They figured out how to give you an insane amount of comfort for X amount of miles. You know,
well,
maybe
X amount of dollars too. I mean,
the majority of those people that would complain would be doing stuff in them that's not running. Like,
well, yeah, people would come into the store and be like, "Yeah, I just got these shoes on my feet, like 3 months ago.
I wear them every day."
Yeah, I went for a run in them this morning, and they're like, they just suck, and they have jeans on, and they have running shoes, and they're tied all the way together, and the loops of their laces are hitting the ground. I can see it now.
Well, be excited to watch that next week, and we appreciate everyone watching, and have a great day.